Well, mighty manifestors, welcome to the New Health Conversation podcast. We're going to be talking about my best-selling book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, because they are. Hi, Susie Miller. Hello, Regar. Hello, Critical Thinker. So the challenge we have today is that everybody's telling you that diets work, and yet 80% of America's overweight and 50% are obese. Does anybody really think that's working? Any of you, at any point, you can see, I put it in the chat for you. Go to the New Health Conversation, and you can actually schedule a free consultation. But when you go to the website, no one's going to contact you. Let's be clear. So going to the website, we're not going to contact you. Hello, Susie. Hello, Sarah. We're talking about this podcast, and this is live. It's not a bot. It's not recorded. I'm actually the author. I'm the author, and I'm the a researcher. Everything we want to share with you today is based on pure medical facts. We don't give you any opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on TikTok and whatever that can give you opinions. We don't give you opinions. So hopefully you'll really get to see why diets are failing us and why even Harvard Medical School is saying, as you can see, you should stop counting calories according to Harvard Medical School. But imagine what we're going to share with you today is the fact that in 7 new, we write about them in our book, okay? In this book right here, Why Diets Are Failing Us, 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies where men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet. They lost no water weight, and instead of losing lean muscle, which is the case on every diet out there, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Most women lose a whole dress size just in the first week. I know it sounds crazy, and yet the main reason to do this, believe it or not, is not to lose weight. The researchers really set out to decide or to find out after, and these are the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years. They've done 150 studies on every diet out there, and they have been looking for the silver bullet, not just for weight loss, but also for health, because you see what they also found in 30 days, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, they all came down dramatically just in 30 days. They lowered inflammation by 25% in a month, okay? So the point is that you now have an incredible opportunity. If you want to go to that website, it's completely free to go there. Oh, I guess I should post it. That would kind of be important, right? Sorry about that, everyone. And the whole idea here is to make you aware of what's available. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to sell you. I've written 4 best-selling books. I've appeared 20 times on PBS, interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, and did over 1,500 lectures all over the world. So for all of you, you're in a position where you really could change your life if you want to. So that actually aims intermittent fasting. Let's read about intermittent fasting. Okay, let's go right here. Let's first look at the Journal of the American Medical Association. They did a 3-month study on intermittent fasting. After 3 months, the average weight loss for people was 2 to 3.5 pounds. And right from the study, this is a medical study. This isn't my opinion. I have no opinions on diets other than bringing you real proof. They said that the majority of weight that people lost was not fat, but lean muscle mass. Now let's go to another study in the New England Journal of Medicine, 12-month study on intermittent fasting, okay? Again, I'm not giving you an opinion, okay? So don't think I am. I'm just telling you the medical proof. Intermittent fasting, they did New England Journal of Medicine, the #1 journal in the world. They did the study, not the people doing intermittent fasting. In 12 months, they had 2 groups of people. One group lowered calories, the other people did intermittent fasting. In 12 months, the group who lowered calories in a year lost 16 pounds. The people who did time-restricted eating did worse. They only lost 12.6 pounds in 12 months, but here was the other thing, the Achilles heel to your intermittent fasting and all diets. Both the calorie-restricted group and those doing time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. 2 major studies proving intermittent fasting long-term. No question you can lose weight short-term on any diet, including intermittent fasting. But intermittent fasting is one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do to yourself. And here's why. When you lose lean muscle, which up to 40% of the weight loss of the 12.6 pounds in a year, that means almost 5 pounds was lean muscle mass. And when you lose lean muscle mass, whether you know it or not, it slows down your metabolism. That means you can't burn as many calories. You come off intermittent fasting, you're going to see it's going to make your head spin how fast you gain everything back. Look, here are the numbers. 80% of America's overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. Do any of you think that diets work? This book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, we wrote it in 2010. It was a bestseller. We've updated it over the last 14 years. And our main principle was this: stop counting calories. The enemy is not calories. It's what's in the calorie. There's the fallacy to intermittent fasting, to carnivore. I don't care what it is. The body doesn't give a hoot about a calorie because it doesn't know what a calorie is. What the body cares about is nutrition. So when you go on any of these schemes, because time-restricted eating is just a way to eat less food. So they're having you eat all your food in 8 hours and 16 hours you don't eat. But the body runs 24 hours a day. The body needs fuel 24 hours a day. It just doesn't need it for 8 hours, okay? So what happens when you drop the amount of food you're consuming, you also drop the amount of nutrition you're consuming. And how does the body react when it realizes it doesn't have enough fuel? It goes into survival mode. It prevents you from burning fat and turns to muscle for fuel. There's nothing I'm making up. This is from the medical studies, from the New England Journal of Medicine, from Nutrients, from the Obesity Journal, from the Journal of the American Medical Association. I mean, you can pretend, you can think, and I'm not saying you didn't lose weight on intermittent fasting. Aha. But we'll see 6 months from now, a year, did you gain it all back? Because that's what they said it in the study, that over 12 months, 40% of what the people lost was lean muscle mass. I know there's influencers coming on and telling you, well, you can lose 20 pounds in a month and it's all fat. Where's their proof? They don't have any. It's an opinion. It's not a fact. When you're talking about peer-reviewed human trial studies, compare that to these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. The first one's ever done on a weight loss protocol where men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of intermittent fasting or any diet out there. And instead of losing water or instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. They lost as much weight in a month, in 30 days. As people lost in this New England Journal of Medicine study by lowering calories, they lost 16 pounds in a year. People in these, now remember, the men and women weren't even allowed to exercise. They lost 16 pounds in a month. And they've kept it off now for a couple of years. See, peer-reviewed studies, they started a few years ago. They take a long time, cost a lot of money. So the original people that did this were in the study groups. They've maintained the weight they've lost now for more than 2 years. My case, I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. There's no diet. I mean, does anyone really believe that if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese, does anybody really think diets work? Sounds good. Lots of new titles, whether it's time-restricted eating or paleo or keto or Mediterranean, etc. Now let me read to you another study from the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is a study of 48 different studies, including time-restricted intermittent fasting, okay? Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Paleo, Keto, Mediterranean, all the major diets, 12 months. Here's what they found. Whether you did intermittent fasting or Jenny Craig or Weight Watch, the difference in weight loss in a year, this is in a year, ladies and gentlemen, was between the least amount of weight loss and the most amount of weight loss was 10 ounces in a year. In a year. They lost about 16 pounds in a year, just like in the New England Journal of Medicine study. And again, up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. And see what's happening when you're gaining the weight back, the medical research is clear. 80% of what you're gaining back is fat. That's why people complain to me all the time. It's not just how much I weigh, but it's the amount of fat I have on my body. And none of these diets deal with really the underlying condition that's causing us to be overweight. I'll get to that in just a moment. But let's go back to these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. Not an opinion on my part. I don't give you opinions. Men and women with no exercise allowed really lost, right in the study, I'm reading from it, they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any of these diets that have been studied. And instead of losing lean muscle, which was the case on all the diets up to 40%, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass without any exercise. But here's the strange thing. The main reason to do this is not to lose weight. That's a given. That's like almost a joke. But people also lowered their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their triglycerides in 30 days. Also in 30 days, which we all suffer from, even if you're not overweight, is inflammation. And the medical community is saying that inflammation is the underlying cause of every disease out there. They lowered inflammation 25% in 30 days. No diet's ever done that. Their hunger came down 41% in a month, and in 8 weeks, they shrank the visceral, that's the belly fat, by 33%. 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. Now, we created, you can see the website there for you. You can go to the New Health Conversation and schedule a free consultation. But here's the point. When you go to the website, there's nothing for you to buy. I'm not selling my books there. It's just the medical proof. And there's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world who conducted the studies. He and his scientists have looked at over 38 years at 150 different diets. And what they created is it's going to obsolete any diet you're out there, including, with all due respect, intermittent fasting, Jenny Craig, I don't care what it is. Because you have to get this new point across. Diets are about lowering the quantity of your food. But what they're not telling you at the same time, you're lowering the nutrition. And the body has a certain level of nutrition that it needs in order for all the organs to function, from the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, and our muscles. And when the body realizes it doesn't have enough fuel, what does it do? It goes and converts your muscles into fuel. That's why you lose lean muscle mass on every diet, because they're based on deficit. A deficit not of calories, because the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. Why are you counting calories? Because someone told you to, versus you don't have enough nutrition. This is a metabolic function that's going on. But not only does your body turn your muscles for fuel and slow down your metabolism, your rate at which you burn calories when you're resting, but it also interferes with your own immune system. Yeah, it absolutely does. That's why lean muscle is so important to us. Now, the other sad part about this, the experts say that for every pound of lean muscle you lose, it takes you, even if you go to the gym and you do everything right, about a year to regain 1 pound of lean muscle. And we have the proof. People gaining weight back on diets, 80% is fat. 80%. What are we doing? And again, you don't have to listen to me. There's plenty of influencers. Go look at them all. They're all over social media. What are they telling you? The only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Well, how come Harvard Medical School is saying stop counting calories? The whole idea of a calorie in, calorie out is not any antiquated. It's just wrong. Harvard says we need to change the emphasis and put the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. That's Harvard Medical School. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. We're just bringing it to you at that website. So you don't have to sign up for a free consultation to see the medical proof. Let me make that point clear. But if you like what you see, you can see right there, the New Health Conversation, schedule a free personal consultation if you want. You don't have to do it. But I guess my point is, what do you have to lose? I'm not kidding you. Because if you do the free personal consultation, it'll be with one of our coaches who's done the protocol. By the way, the researchers call the protocol R2M. You know what this stands for? Race to maintenance. Because they're not just concerned about people losing the weight. They want it to be the right kind of weight, so it's not lean muscle, which they proved it wasn't, and the fact that people can maintain that weight loss for the rest of their lives. We're in a terrible situation. This is a new study from ABC News. They said, listen to this. The lead author, Dr. Wang of Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, says that the current overweight and obesity trends continue. 86% of Americans are going to be overweight or obese by 2030. That's in 6 years. It's right now 80%. But they go on to say, this is unbelievable. They say, even more troubling, the authors note, by 2048, all American adults would become overweight or obese. Again, you can pretend it's so. How in the world could this be happening with all these diets and these gurus, and with all due respect, all the people on social media telling you that there's medical doctors and there's chiropractors and there's dietitians and there's nutritionists and there's weight loss coaches and fat loss coaches and fitness trainers. If any of it worked, you couldn't possibly have 80% of America overweight, and in 6 years headed to 86%. And actually in 24 years, they're saying that 100% of America could be overweight or obese. What planet are we living on? Are we not defining the definition of insanity? So my point is, Charles, researchers. Yes, Charles, that's me. And Ames, I'm not trying to, if you want to do intermittent fasting, go for it. All I'm telling you is that the medical proof in the medical trials completely says that intermittent fasting, don't eat for 16 hours, eat for 8. It's no different than any other diet out there. And sadly, look, the researchers who did these 7 new peer-reviewed trials, they had 38 years of they analyzed time-restricted eating, fasting. 150 studies. Okay, that's pretty monumental. And here's what they found. In every diet out there, you can lose weight. But here's the question I want you to ask yourself. Is your diet doing something for you, or is it doing something to you? See, the goal of fitting in your skinny jeans, I'm not saying that's bad. But if you understand that the weight loss you're losing on any diet, not my opinion, based on the medical evidence that we've written about in our books, is lean muscle mass. That's why you gain back all the weight. That's why you plateau. Stay on whatever diet you're on right now. You'll see what happens. I mean, maybe you're an anomaly and you'll change the trend. But when we're talking about the major medical journals now looking into diets because they don't know what else to do, 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic. We already have an insulin shortage. And if by 2048, 100% of America is overweight or obese, there won't be enough dollars for health care. I mean, we at least need to look at an alternative to what we're doing now. At least I think we do. I mean, what is going on here, folks? So I'm sure some of you are questioning, okay, how in the world, what did they do? How does this all work? Okay, well, what the researchers did essentially over the course of 38 years, you know what? They figured out what didn't work. What didn't work was putting people on lowering their food consumption and ignoring nutrition. Because in every time people lost weight, whether it's intermittent fasting or paleo or keto or Cornish or the zone diet or Atkins or, lose weight for your blood type, Jenny Craig Weight Watchers, didn't matter. Everybody lost weight. But every person, every time, lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. And every person, every time, on every diet in the long run, gained back all their weight. That's why we have 80% of America overweight and 50% are obese. And I understand you're all skeptical. That would only be normal. If you weren't skeptical, I'd be really surprised. But honestly, do you really think what you're doing is going to work? This whole book, which was a huge bestseller, why diet? No, it was controversial because we said, why are we counting calories? We said the enemy's not calories. It has nothing to do with calories because the human body doesn't know what a calorie is, but it knows what nutrition is. And I don't care what diet you go on, you're consuming less food. And when you're consuming less food, you're getting less nutrition. Now, I'm not opposed to things like even the carnivore diet, but it's still woefully short in what we need as human beings. See, the real thing that's going on, this may shock some of you. This is one of the main reasons why 80% of Americans are overweight, not just because the diets don't work, but the approach is wrong because they don't understand the problem. Here's the problem, the TDOS syndrome. It's a registered trademark. U.S. Patent Office is a new medical syndrome. What does it stand for? T for toxicity, D for deficiency, O for being overweight, and S for stress. And me and you and every person in the world has the TDOS syndrome. What the heck's the TDOS syndrome? What does it even mean? It means that we're now living in such a toxic world that the water, the air, the food is loaded with chemicals. You can't avoid them. I don't care. If you're breathing right now, you're breathing in the fumes from the coal-fired power plants in China from 2 weeks ago, the mercury, the cadmium, etc. Did you see the thing on Starbucks coffee about 6 weeks ago? They said in 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, you're getting between 50 and 100,000 microplastics. And in a water bottle, it's like 100 or 200,000 microplastics in every bottled water you drink. Well, what's the body doing with that stuff? It's storing it. It's not excreting it. And where are we depositing it? In our visceral fat. That's the fat around your organs. Right now, every one of us, well, not me, because I've been doing this for 21 years, so it's hopefully a lot less than it was. But all of you on here, you have between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals embedded inside your visceral fat. We've had about 1,000 studies now done on humans storing chemicals in our bodies. See, we don't give you opinions. If you want an opinion, plenty of people on social media that will give you an opinion. We don't give you opinions. We don't want to give you opinions. We want to give you facts. So that website that you're seeing right there, the New Health Conversation, there's nothing there except the medical proof about what I'm talking about. There's nothing to buy. We're not selling any of my books there. But let's come back to the TDOS syndrome and explain to you why this is the most important reason to do this protocol, not just to lose weight. Although, as I said, the weight loss, imagine losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, losing as much weight in 30 days as a year in any diet, losing no water, and instead of losing lean muscle, which we just showed you the proof on every diet out there, up to 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle mass. That's why you end up with all that loose skin. In these studies, people, the men and women with no exercise, gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But the thing that was most significant was the visceral. That's the belly fat, where we're storing the chemicals. It shrank in 8 weeks by 33% with no exercise. Now, you may be skeptical. That's why I invite you. You can go and see the medical proof. The reason I didn't put it in my books or anything well, a couple reasons. Number one, the data is updated. I mean, this book, and I wrote 3 revisions of it. It was published in 2010, huge bestseller. But I can't keep up with the new information that's coming. So that's what we created, that free website for you to go there with no harm, foul. But let's listen to what the experts are saying now about these chemicals that you and me and everybody in the world storing in our body. So the Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrial chemicals. And they go on to say these chemicals, by the way, have a name. They call them obesogens, right? Obesogens, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. Obesogens, keep going. They enter our bodies in a variety of ways, from natural compounds found in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastic pollutants in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on our produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking human hormones and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? I mean, seriously, did you even know obesogens existed? Did you know you're storing these chemicals in your body? And they're saying, this is in my opinion, they're leading to many of the diseases that curse the American populace. No diet has ever shown removing a gram of a toxin. The researchers who did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis proved that this protocol, first and foremost, was removing herbicides and pesticides, and yes, even plastics from the body by assisting the body. No one's ever seen anything like this. Now, the fact also you're going to shrink. I mean, like I said, most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days with no exercise. Let me be clear, the researchers weren't against exercise, but for the purposes of the studies, they had to be in a position to eliminate exercise as a factor, right? And yet people lost weight in 30 days. It took a year on diet, exercise, on all the diets. But instead of losing water weight and saying, oh my God, it's unhealthy to lose that much weight that fast, on a diet it would be. Why? Because we know that the majority, up to 40% of what you're losing is lean muscle mass, which slows your metabolism down. You can't burn as many calories. You gain all your weight back because you can't burn as many calories, but it also interferes with your own immune system. Did you know that? Did you know that that's really one of the things, like in cancer patients, that they're trying to guard against is people losing weight, because it's primarily lean muscle. They lose lean muscle mass, it compromises their immune system, which they sorely need. So this is revolutionary breakthrough. The researchers, and I'm going to explain to you now exactly what did they do? How did people lose as much weight in 7 days safely as in 8 weeks of any diet? Okay. Number one, it's not a diet. Number two, it had nothing to do with calories. What the researchers did after 38 years, after 150 studies, they determined that every diet they did was lowering the amount of food, which lowered the amount of nutrition. Our body has a certain, let's call it the horizon. Above or equal to is enough nutrition to run all the organs in our body, our brain, our kidney, our liver, our heart, and our muscles. What happens on a diet, when you lower the amount of food, that horizon of nutrition, it goes down as well. Now the body senses, wait a minute, there's not enough fuel. The body freaks out, goes in starvation mode, and locks down. You can't burn fat. Then it says, wait a minute, the brain goes first, wait a minute, I need nutrition. So where does it find it? Starts in our muscles, breaks our muscles down, converting them into carbohydrates for fuel. But because that's so inefficient, the body still doesn't have enough fuel. So what does it do? It slows down your metabolism, your ability to burn calories when you're resting. But the other thing it does, it also interferes with your own immune system. So they knew that after 38 years and 150 studies, every diet they'd ever done failed. Well, failed in terms of people gained all their weight back, and the weight they were losing was lean muscle mass. So what did they learn? They said, wait a minute, we need to change the narrative. If we're going to lower, is it possible to lower the quantity of the food we're consuming, but not lower the nutrition? Well, in all the studies up to this point, they'd done organic food, from local sources in the United States. But the problem is our food in this country is becoming more and more nutritionally deficient, just like I wrote about in the TDOS syndrome. The D is for deficiency. Well, what do I mean? Let's just look at a couple things. Number one, Cornell University did a study on spinach, on iron levels in spinach. From 1953 to today, they say they've decreased, you ready for this, by 4,300%. What's one of the things we're the most deficient in? What are called trace ionic minerals. Now, you've all heard of iron, calcium, magnesium. But there's 70 of these trace ionic minerals that are called the spark plugs of life. That's how important they are. We need 70. In the best organic you can find, according to the studies, you get 15 to 20 minerals. So one of the things that the researchers did, they found a source that had all 70 trace ionic minerals, not chelated minerals. Whole different ball game, not in the same category. The trace ionic minerals is the premium that the body uses to turn on all our enzymes in our body, and we run on enzymes in case you didn't know it, right? Now, the other thing that we're the most deficient, so let me back up. So obviously in the previous studies where they put people on reducing the amount of food, they were giving them food that already only had 20 minerals. So now they're giving them even less quantity. Well, the body reacted by going into starvation mode and burning muscle. But the other thing that we're the most deficient in, all of us starting at age 25, you can look it up, we suffer from a disease called sarcopenia. What the heck is that? Sarcopenia is the loss of 1% of your lean muscle mass every year starting at age 25. Go into a nursing home and look at people in their 80s. The skin is hanging off their bones. They've lost all their muscle. So they're very unstable. What's fear of an elderly person? They fall down, break their hip. It can be fatal, okay? Also, they now have got studies showing that the loss of lean muscle mass absolutely contributes to what? Contributes to dementia and or Alzheimer's. So this loss of muscle mass. Now, why are we losing muscle mass? Because in order to make muscle in our body, in addition to exercise, you need one of 20 amino acids. It's called leucine. Now, how do we get amino acids? We get amino acids inside of proteins. Now, there are 9, we're called 9 essential amino acids. You have to get them from your diet. The other 11 are non-essential, right? So, what's shocking, and you've heard the people tell you this if you've been on social media, well, have 120 grams of protein a day. So you're thinking, well, that's great because protein contains the aminos. I'm getting 120 grams of protein. No, you're not. In Europe, they developed a new test called net nitrogen utilization through blood, stool, urine, and fat. When we ingest a protein from a plant or an animal, we get all 20 amino acids. Whew, that sounds good. Doesn't mean anything to your body. Your only body cares about what percentage from 0 to 100 are we actually using to make human protein. We have 22,000 genes in our body. We make, listen to this, 22,000 different human proteins. So protein from a plant or an animal, believe it or not, what's not converted to amino acids is actually a toxin. They're called toxicants. They're actually called nitrogen catabolites. That's the medical for it. So the byproduct of not. So if you thought of protein like a walnut shell, maybe that's a better a way for you to understand it. So obviously we don't want to eat the shell. We want the walnut. So it's the same thing in the body. So like I said, all vegan proteins were about 10% absorption, but steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., were 30%, right? But only 30%. The researchers found a source of protein where the absorption of those 20 amino acids was 91%, 91. That's why people in the studies with no exercise allowed, men and women, instead of losing any lean muscle, they gained, 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Why? Because there were 2 different kinds of days that people experienced as they were going through the protocol. One were called protein pacing. I'm going to explain that to you right now. So the protein pacing was based on consuming protein over about 12, 14 hours over the course of a day. Nothing like time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, nothing like that. Because the body needs fuel. It uses up the fuel, it needs more fuel. So that's one of the downfalls of something like intermittent fasting, where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. The body's in complete starvation mode, and it goes and attacks the muscles. Period. End of the story. Medical proof. Okay, that's what's going on. So the researchers, what they were able to do was reduce, again, remember, they were reducing the quantity of food people were consuming, including protein. So people were consuming essentially about 60% less protein, but they were getting the same benefit of the amino acids. Here's a better example. So think about, you could buy a gallon of gas and you could go 20 miles, or you could buy a gallon of gas and you go 100 miles. That's what these researchers did. They found the same amount of fuel, drove people basically 5 times farther, or created well, in this case, it was 12 times the weight loss of any diet anyone's ever seen. And instead of losing lean muscle, they gained lean muscle. So that was the protocol. 40% of the food from the grocery store. You actually would get a list of fats, proteins, carbs, fruits, etc. But the other 60% of these 5 foods that come from around the world that included not only the 70 trace ionic minerals, but the 91% absorption of the aminos. But listen to this. Also, it contained one of the only sources in the world of what are called naturally sourced plant-based vitamins. See, almost all the vitamins you're consuming today are synthetic. Because so many people have MTHFR gene, over 50%. When they consume a synthetic vitamin, it goes haywire in their body. So essentially what the researchers found was essentially sort of like the world's most perfect food. Because there is no food, including even mother's breast milk, that has all 70 minerals, that has pure vitamins, and has this, the 70 minerals, for example. So it's no wonder that the people had unbelievable life-changing experiences, because the only thing that's happening here is the body is reacting to 100 mile per gallon nutrition. That's really what's going on. So obviously the less amount of food you can run through your body to fuel it. And in this case, not only did they meet the minimum nutritional requirement, they went way above it. That's why this worked. Now, it's called R2M, race to maintenance. So like I said, 5 days a week, they did the protein pacing with the protein source that has 91% absorption. So 40% of the protein from the grocery store, 60% from this other source. And then 2 days a week, and I didn't tell you that, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting. Not intermittent fasting, totally different. Nutritionally supported fasting. On those days, no food from the grocery store, and they only consumed 4 of these foods that came from around the world that allowed the body to essentially create the same process. See, when you went to sleep last night, and myself, as long as we didn't eat too late, the body suspends digestion and automatically begins detoxing. It's called autophagy. It's basically getting rid of the dead cells and the debris every night when we sleep. See, that's one of the problems with something like intermittent fasting. It takes tremendous amount of fuel to allow the body to produce this detox symptom. So when you wake up in the morning, you're totally depleted. That's why, sorry to tell the intermittent fasting people, completely ridiculous to even think that in the long run that could possibly do anything but cause you to lose lean muscle. Because remember, your body doesn't have any fuel left. It has no carbs, has no fats. So what's it going to do? It's going to go after your muscles. Again, it's not an opinion on my part. We know it. We know medically this is what's going on. And again, that's back to why diets are failing us. Now, I talked before about the TDOS syndrome that you and me and everybody in the world has. We're storing chemicals in our body. They're called obesogens. But here's another update on that from one of the lead scientists in the world in that field. Frederick von Saal, professor of biological sciences, University of Missouri, Columbia, stated, obesogens are acting by hijacking the regulatory system that control body weight. The presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and their adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. Exactly what I've been saying. Exactly what I've been saying. And the key to this whole thing is these researchers figured out how to basically improve the body's own natural built-in detox mechanism to get rid of these chemicals. That's what's going on. And let's go back now. That's why I keep saying the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. We joke, because imagine, most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. They lose as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost in a month what took a year on any diet. They lost no water weight and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass and lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides in 30 days, lowered inflammation, which we all suffer from, by 25% in 30 days. And in 8 weeks, they shrank visceral fat by 33%. There's nothing like this on the planet. And again, in my book, which I wrote in 2010, Why Diets Are Failing Us, 3 updates since then in 14 years. We wrote about this and said the enemy's not calories. Why are we counting calories? The body doesn't know what a calorie is. What matters is what's in the calorie. Let me give you an even more dramatic example. So let's say, for argument's sake, or discussion, not really argument, that the influences out there that are telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Doesn't matter what's in the calorie, apparently. So let's say we landed on 1,500 calories a day, okay? So we have 2 different kinds of diets, and if it only matters how many calories, right? So 1,500 calories behind door number 1, diet number 1, lean chicken, fish, vegetables, etc. 1,500 calories. Behind number 2, door number 2, 1,500 calories. But those 1,500 calories are from what? 3 bags of M&Ms. Do you see the absurdity of the whole thing about counting calories? Why it's so wrong? Why it's just completely wrong? Harvard Medical School, again, stop counting calories. Well, it's right there. Harvard Medical School, they said, because the concept of calories in, calories out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said, instead of counting the calories, we need to make every calorie count. That's essentially what they said. This is not my opinion. It's not Peter Greenlaw's opinion. And at any time, like I said, you can see it there, the New Health Conversation. It's a free website with the medical proof. There's nothing to buy there, none of my books. We're not going to contact you. The only way we'll contact you can see it there, is you can schedule a free personal consultation. But we're not limiting what you can see before you set up the free consultation. There's the before and afters. There's the medical proof. The studies are actually there. An interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world, and a 20-minute walkthrough of the protocol that these people did. It's sort of like, I understand you're skeptical. I support it. But you've got to understand the difference here is we're the only that I've seen on social media with actual peer-reviewed human trial studies, not scientific papers, not a clinical trial. Those don't mean anything in the medical world. A peer-reviewed human trial is as high as you can go in medical research. No drug ever gets approved, thank goodness, without a peer-reviewed human trial study. Not on mice, not on rats, but on human beings. And that's the safeguard. And sometimes, yeah, they make mistakes, not on purpose, but there's something they didn't anticipate. So all those drugs you see on TV, they've gone through peer-reviewed human trial studies. It's the only thing that makes any sense. And yet, look at the supplements, look at the people on social media making all these claims to you. With all due respect, medical doctors, PhDs with all these credentials, chiropractors, etc. But they don't have any medical proof what they're telling you. I know of a woman right now that spent 6 months, she weighs 300 pounds. She spent, I think, $16,000 in 6 months with one of these, influencers, let's say. And in 8 months, she's lost 16 pounds. I just told you that the men and women in our studies with no exercise at all, they lost 16 pounds in a month. And it wasn't $16,000. Because the other thing that's so amazing about this, if you did decide to do the protocol, 40% of what you're going to spend, you go to the grocery store and you get a grocery list. The other 5 foods, which you can't buy in the grocery store, those foods come from these fulfillment companies that for 25 years have searched the world to find foods that had massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of calories. And they offer during the first 30 days 100% money back guarantee. They'll even pay return shipping because nothing's 100%. But I'll tell you what, this is probably 99%. It's so rare when anybody wants a refund. It's like we're almost disappointed. Did we do something wrong? What didn't we tell you? You have no risk. The only thing that could be holding you back now is your skepticism. But I would say this, look at all the things in our world now, including this technology we're doing right now. But how does GPS work? I don't know. I mean, what do you mean there's a car up ahead on the shoulder? They have a camera? This stuff is crazy. But with 80% of America overweight and 50% obese, and it getting worse and worse and worse every year, it's not that incredible. Now, granted, the researchers, it took them 38 years to figure this out based on what didn't work. What didn't work was all these diets lowering the quantity of food. And the people lost weight every time and every day. We're not arguing that. We're not arguing at all. We're just trying to make you aware of what's available. So we provided that free website for you to go to see the medical proof, not opinions. We don't want you to listen to, don't judge me, bam, bam, Latrice, welcome. Thank you so much for being part of this. If any of you want to put comments in the, ask me any questions, that certainly is fine. So let me review again what we've been talking about. So I'll show you the books. Why Diets Are Failing Us was my first bestseller. Then I discovered this medical syndrome called TDOS, toxicity, deficiency, overweight, and stress. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office, recognized as a new medical syndrome. Then we wrote TDOS Solutions, which is obviously the antidote to the TDOS syndrome. And then my fourth book called Your Third Brain is not a trick title. It was all about the evidence in a major basically about your gut microbiome, your gut health. And we wrote the first book on it, really, that said that this is way more than just a collection of microbes and bacteria. It actually was the third brain of the body. I'm not selling you my books. Don't hear me say that. And there's no books to buy on that website. The only thing there, it's a medical website. It's open to everybody. It just contains the free medical proof. And you can sign up for a free. Okay, Bam Bam, what do you eat? Okay, so Bam Bam, essentially, there's a grocery list, okay? We want you to do organic, not us, but the researchers. Proteins, fats, carbs, and these, and fruits, okay? You have the list. It's a wide list. There's a lot of things on, including salad dressings, right? But the other 5 foods that come from places like Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, that's not something you can buy in a store. They came from research companies over the last 25 years that found food sources with tremendous amounts of nutrition, not tremendous amounts of calories. So regular food would get you, let's say, I'm using a car analogy. Let's say you ate regular food, you got 20 miles to the gallon on that food. What the researchers found, these new foods from around the world get you 100 miles on the same quantity of food. That's why this works, okay? And again, Bam Bam, I would encourage you, go to the website. It's free. There's nothing there to buy. There's nothing there to see. But the reason we invite you to do a free consultation, because we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? Are you an athlete? How old are you? What do you want to accomplish? I mean, we have people, obviously, that are on medications. And we're not treating, diagnosing, making any medical claims or cures. We're not doing that. We're making you aware of something that has medical proof behind it. What it could do for you, I don't know. I only know what it did for me. So Bam Bam, I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. But I had some real medical challenges for all of you to hear. This is my story. I'm not saying it would happen to you. But 21 years ago, walked in my doctor's office and he said that I had an 85% chance of a heart attack within 15 months. What? Well, my cholesterol was 400, my triglycerides were 300, and I was 40 pounds overweight. So I did traditional diet, exercise, and drugs. Came back 8 weeks later, I'd lost 8 pounds, pretty typical on a diet, but my cholesterol only come down to about 15 points, and he says, I can't give you any more cholesterol medication. I went, oh my God, now what do I do? Well, I ran into a friend of mine who played professional football for the Oakland Raiders and turned me on to the early version of this. I went on it. I'll give you the short version. I lost 8 pounds in 4 days. It took me 8 weeks on any diet, 12 pounds in 9 days, 20 pounds in 18 days, 30 pounds in a month. Went on, lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks. Went back. The 8th week was my follow-up from the previous. And this time my doc comes in, throws my chart down and says, you trying to kill yourself? I said, what are you talking about? He says, how much of the statin are you taking? I said, I haven't touched it in 8 weeks. He said, well, the lab made a mistake. We need to retest you. I said, why? He said, why? Your cholesterol's gone from 400 to 120. Your triglycerides have gone from 300 to 40. You've lost 40 pounds, and your heart attack risk has dropped from 85 to 15. And I said, you're not retesting me. I really believe that, I can't prove it, that I'm maybe here today because of it. So it obviously became something that became a passion. And then another doctor introduced me to the chemists that invented it, and they were looking for someone to, basically share it with the world. And that's what I've been doing for 21 years. This is not a diet. This is like nothing. This is not lotions, potions, pills. If you go into the website and you think you're going to see 3 recipes to lose weight, no, that's completely antiquated, out of control. So I really hope that you will take your precious time and go. I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw. I'm dead serious. And I'm not telling this to impress you, because in addition to writing 4 best-selling books, all with medical doctors, I've done 20 shows on PBS. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, and I did over 1,500 live lectures around the world before COVID, including in China. So I've spent 21 years of my life becoming a nutritional researcher. But I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. I'm bringing it to you. But the most important thing is for 20 of those 21 years, despite all that academic endeavor that I've been on, no medical doctors, 0 medical doctors took a look at this. Well, since these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies that you'll see if you go to the website came out, I got doctor after doctor after doctor that are joining because they really want to help their patients. And whether you go to an endocrinologist or an internist, if you are on medication, high blood pressure or blood sugar in particular, if you're overweight, they'll tell you that if you can just lose weight, you'll probably need less medication. We're not against medications. Don't hear me say that. Thank God we have them because we got such a crisis on our hands with, the diabetics 1 and 2, and obviously cholesterol and high blood pressure, all these things going on. I mean, the Washington ABC News, listen to this, they said, Dr. Wang of Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Medicine says if current overweight and obesity trends continue, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese in 2030. That's 6 years from now. We're at 80% right now. But then they went on to say, even more troubling, the authors note, if the current trends continue, by 2048, all American adults would become overweight or obese. Do you think that sounds like regular diets are working? Even if it's not even, it is 80% right now. Does anybody think that diets, intermittent fasting, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, carnivore, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, any of them work long term? They don't. Based on what? Evidence, not Peter Greenlaw's opinion. That's why I don't want you to believe me. But if you go to the website, you see an interview with the #1 nutritional weight loss health researcher in the world for 38 years and his team. They're the ones that conducted 150 studies on every diet out there, figuring out what didn't work to come up with this new protocol where men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year on any diet that they'd ever studied. And without the loss of water, and instead of losing lean muscle, which was the case in all 150 studies they did, people gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass with no exercise. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it's not too good to be true. And if you take your time, your precious time, why not make yourself #1 on your to-do list? Isn't your health your wealth? Or you can believe the influencers. There's tons of them on social media. And what are they going to tell you? The only way to lose weight is to lower calories. This whole podcast, we've proven to you medically over and over and over again, including when Harvard Medical School says stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They're saying it's wrong. That what we need to concentrate is what's in the calorie, not how many calories you're consuming. Who's telling you that? All diets are a deficit. That's all they are. But what they're not telling you, the deficit is not calories. It's nutrition. And like I explained before, the reason they can't work is because the body has a certain minimum amount of nutrition that it needs. And when you go on a diet, you lower the quantity of your food, you lower the quantity of your nutrition. The body figures that out pretty quickly. And what does it do? It goes into emergency, starvation mode, red lights flashing, and stops you from burning fat. And then it goes and seeks nutrition because the brain, the kidney, the liver, all the organs can't run without, they don't run on calories. They run on nutrition. So what does the body do in an emergency? It goes after your muscles and breaks them down and converts them into carbohydrates for fuel. Now, as bad as that is, even doing that is so inefficient that the body doesn't have a choice. It slows down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on diets. That's why you come off these diets, you gain everything back. You know, people ask me all the time about the GLPs, the shots like Ozempic, semaglutide, etc. I'm not against the shots. They're helping diabetics and they're helping people that are obese. But let's look at the medical proof. What's the medical proof? The medical proof is that New England Journal of Medicine did a 68-week study, in this case on semaglutide. You can look it up. In 68 weeks, people lost 32 pounds in 68 weeks. But right in the body of the study, up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. That's what we've written about in all our books. I mean, you can pretend, you can think that you've got some magic formula that somehow lowering calories, which is lowering, code word for lowering nutrition, isn't going to force your own body for survival to burn your muscles for fuel. If you go to that website, you'll see before and afters. You will swear we photoshopped them. There are men and women on there that lost 80, 100 pounds. They have no loose skin. What? We didn't Photoshop. Now, maybe you don't believe that. If I showed them on social media, I'd be banned because they don't want you doing really before and now. I understand. And boy, I love TikTok. I don't want to do anything to make TikTok mad because it's really been a godsend for me. Like I said, for 20, 15, 16 years, or 18 years, I guess, before COVID, I'd done over 1,500 lectures all over the world, live, in person. That all stopped. So thank goodness I discovered TikTok to be this forum. I'm reaching people all over the world now that really, because see, this is a worldwide crisis. Don't think it's just the United States. So the, let's see, this is in the Lancet, one of the biggest medical journals in the world. And what did they show and what did they prove? They proved that in their study that 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition. What? Yeah. They went on to say people don't understand that being underweight and being obese are both forms of malnutrition because people aren't getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients necessary to be healthy. What? Obese people are nutritionally bankrupt? See, that's the point. It's not about the calories. It's about what's in the calorie. Do you know they did a big study on obese children? Let's see, it was Dr. Hyman that published this study. I saw it and was blown away. They said that 25% of the kids who were obese were suffering from what? Rickets and scurvy, which are diseases of malnutrition. I mean, what are we doing? That's why the researchers finally figured out there had to be places in the world where the food still had, again, 20 miles to the gallon wasn't cutting it for people long term to lose weight and keep it off. No, they went and found 100 mile to the gallon. Well, I'm using a metaphor, of course, right? And you have an opportunity. I mean, the people in the studies actually said, just give us 4 days. Why? Because they said, we lost as much weight in 4 days as we had in a month of any diet we'd ever done. What? How much would that incentivize you if you stood on the scale on the 5th morning and the first thing you thought your scale broke? I'm not kidding you. That's what people say. Aren't we desperate for a solution? If they're talking about in 6 years that we're going to go from 80% overweight to 86% overweight, and they're saying in 24 years that 100% of America is going to be overweight or obese, 100%. So if we just continue to do what we're doing, which is, that's the definition of insanity, and expecting a different result, why would the result be any different? Why would you going on any form of calorie restriction? Why would you think that's going to work long term? I go to the gym regularly and I see men and women in there, on the Stairmaster and the sweating and doing all that kind of stuff. And month after month after month after month, they're not losing an ounce. So the whole point behind the new health conversation is to make you aware of something that literally could change your life, could absolutely change the rest of your life. And you'll see it down there is the website on your profile. It's right, let me put it, it's right up there at the top, the new health conversation. Let me put it on there again for you. Hold on, okay. Okay, I just posted it again right there. You can see the new health conversation where you can go for free. We're not going to contact you if you go there. Everything is there, all the medical proof, interviews, etc. Because we want you to feel comfortable. We don't want you to feel like this is some gimmick or trick to bait and switch you. We don't do that. We're researchers. And if you do sign up, it says right there, sign up for a free, and I mean free, personal consultation with one of our coaches who's done the protocol, and has coached hundreds of people. Because we don't know anything about you. So, Mary, we don't know. Maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe you want to lose weight. Are you on any medication? How old are you? Do you exercise? What have you tried in the past? We evaluate for free so you can understand what this potentially could do for you. But it goes even farther than that, Mary. 40% of the food they used in these medical trials I've been talking about, you get a grocery list, okay? But the other 5 foods that you would purchase come from these fulfillment companies, I don't know, that supplied the food to the studies. Listen to this. In the first 30 days, Mary, they give you 100% money back guarantee. They'll pay return shipping. You don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to say anything. And they'll pay return shipping. Now, nothing's 100% Mary, of course, but this is pretty close. So that website, okay, I'm here, new here. How do I find the protocol? Okay, Amy, do you see there the new health conversation? Schedule a free consultation. What about hormones? Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, this is unbelievable. Women go nuts with menopause, the light flashes. This greatly diminishes that. Also, we've seen Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, et cetera, all of those conditions also seem to improve. Well, here's why. I don't know if you all were around when I talked about this new medical syndrome that you and me and everybody in the world has called TDOS, Registered Trademark U.S. Patent Office, of a new medical condition that you probably didn't hear of before this podcast today. The T is for toxicity, the D is for deficiency, the O is for being overweight, and the S is for stress. We're storing chemicals in our body, specifically in our what's called our visceral fat. That's our body fat. Not up for debate. As an adult on here, you would have between 1,000 and 1,500 calories stored in your visceral fat. Well, obviously the thyroid is all the blood in our body goes through there about every 15, 20 minutes. It's a huge filter. So is it any wonder with the onslaught of these chemicals that first are being transported in the blood going through the thyroid that it could affect the function. But listen to what the world experts are saying about these chemicals to back up this is a registered trademark. U.S. Patent Office. I don't know if any of you have registered trademarks. They're very expensive. They take a long term. And what do they do when they're giving you a patent, essentially a sort of like a patent on your? It's not a patent. It's a registered trademark. But they've searched the world looking for anything similar. And when it comes to medical world, you better have something that's unique, or they don't grant it to you. It's a big deal. Not because I discovered it, okay? But it is a big deal. So I want to read to you what the world experts are saying about these chemicals that you probably didn't. Have any of you ever heard the word obesogens? Listen to this. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports that the rise in the incidence in obesity matches the rise in use and distribution of industrial chemicals. They call these chemicals obesogens. They go on to say obesogens, simply put, are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace, including, of course, hormones. But they said that. Our chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system. This is the Endocrine Society, the biggest society studying hormones in the world. So back to your question about hormones, listen to this. They enter our body from a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones found to animals, plastic pollutants in food packaging, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on our produce. They act in a variety of ways. Listen to this again. They act in a variety of ways mimicking human hormones, such as estrogen, blocking the action of other hormones such as testosterone, and altering the function of our genes and essentially reprogram us to gain weight. Hormones, now do you see? Now do you get it, Mary? Again, Mary, hopefully you all see the website right down there, the New Health Conversation. It's 3/4 of the way down in the comments. The New Health Conversation. You can go there for free. And Elizabeth, what about hormones? No, well, it's for sale, but I don't want you to buy my book. Honestly, the reason we did the website was so that you would feel it wasn't a trick to get you to go there to bait and switch and sell you something. There's nothing to buy on the website. What's there? The medical proof. The actual studies, the before and afters, including before and after pictures, not just about weight, but A1C and blood sugar and blood pressure and cholesterol and triglycerides as well. And if you like what you see, that's what I'm saying. Then you can, if only after you, we won't contact you. I swear to you, we're not going to contact you. We don't do that. We don't need to. We're researchers. We have science on our side, okay? But let's listen to the next part of this. Again, another one of the experts, Frederick von Saul, professor of biological sciences, University of Missouri at Columbia, stated, obesogens are acting by hijacking the regulatory system that controls body weight. This presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated, and never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic chemicals results in the production and storage of fat. There's your answer. That's why so many people talk about not just how much weight they lost, but how much fat. Because our body, to protect us, it doesn't know what else to do. So it takes the chemicals and stuffs them in the visceral fat. Well, in these 7 peer-reviewed studies, through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this protocol was removing the herbicides, the pesticides, the plastics from the body. Oh, and by the way, then people, men and women, lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, without the loss of water, and they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But here was the other thing that was cool. So the very belly fat, that visceral fat, the researchers proved it shrunk by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. Nobody in these studies was allowed to exercise. They actually wore Fitbits to prove they weren't exercising because people were really skeptical. How can we lose weight without exercise? And let me be clear, that the researchers weren't against exercise. No. But they had to eliminate that as a factor if it makes sense to Mary and Elizabeth and Templetime and Trina. Okay, what are examples of obesogens? Herbicides, pesticides, Scotchgard, flame retardants, cleaning supplies. I mean, all these. Listen, great question, Trina. We have 80,000 chemicals in commercial use in North America. 80,000. 2% have ever been tested for what they do to us. That's 1,600. Now, I don't know, Trina, if you saw the movie, I really liked it, called Dark Waters. True story about DuPont. They said in the study that 98% of all people in the world have Teflon in their bodies. So, look, this is, thank goodness, these researchers, they proved there's a way to assist our own body in removing these chemicals. Did you know, for example, all of you, every night when you go to sleep, as long as you don't eat too late, the body suspends digestion and automatically turns on the detox mechanism of our body to get rid of the dead cells. Every night it happens. Basically, what the researchers did, they figured out how to do that when people were awake. I'm going to explain that to you in a moment. So what did they really do? What did the researchers, how did this come about? Well, the researchers are considered the top nutritional researchers in the world, but not just nutritional diet researchers, but also physiologists, meaning they study the interaction of organs and stuff inside our body. Big deal. So they're not just analyzing the nutrition and what's in there, but what is it doing inside the body? Well, in the studies, that's why they measured blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically just in 30 days. And measured inflammation, which the medical community said the underlying cause of every disease out there is inflammation. It went down 25% in a month. And I don't care if you're young or old or thin, you have inflammation in your body. You can't not have it because you're storing these chemicals. And these chemicals think of them like an irritant. They cause inflammation. That's why this is such a breakthrough. That's why this is not a diet. Nothing to do with dieting. So the researchers, after 38 years of research, 150 studies, thousands of people. 3 things they discovered that led them to this new protocol called R2M. Actually, it stands for race to maintenance, just so you know. But what they found was that people lost weight on every diet. We could go A through Z through, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, the carnivore diet, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, nutrition, didn't matter. People lost weight on all those diets. That was not a question. But in every case, when they measured the lean muscle mass, people on every diet they tested lost up to 40% of the lean muscle. As a result of losing lean muscle, whether you know it or not, your body has to slow down your metabolism. You slow down metabolism, you can't burn as many calories. So what did they find in all the 150 studies? People, almost all of them, gained back all their weight or more. I want to read to you from another study in here that says 66 2/3 of people who go on any type of calorie restriction, calorie reduced diet, gain back more weight than they lost. This is medical science is finally figuring this out. What we're doing is not working, right? Okay, so The researchers then basically had 38 years of figuring out what didn't work. Kind of like Thomas Edison, they said to him, well, you failed 3,000 times inventing the light bulb. And he goes, no, I didn't. I just figured out 3,000 ways not to invent it. That's kind of, so the researchers, when they put this together, they were going to do something no one had ever done before. They didn't know if it worked. Now understand the research, they don't sell anything. Their only dog in this hunt is their research. So what did they do? Well, they knew based on all the diets that they looked at that lowering the amount of, that's all a diet is. It's lowering the amount of food you're consuming. And when you lower the amount of food you're consuming, you're lowering nutrition. And when you lower nutrition, the body freaks out, goes in starvation mode, and converts your muscles into fuel for carbohydrates. Okay, that's what's going on. So what they knew was that if we they didn't know, could they reduce the amount of food people consumed, okay, without lowering the nutrition? See, I want you to get all a new concept. Counting calories is not, well, Harvard, it's right there in the title. Harvard Medical School said stop counting calories, so you don't have to believe me. And you can count them if you want, but it's ridiculous. They said it's not only antiquated, it's just wrong, okay? So the researchers basically, okay, they inadvertently figured out that could we supply the body with enough nutrition, even if we lowered the quantity? Well, they tried it with regular food and it didn't work, okay? So what they did, they limited the amount of food people consume to 40%, and you actually get a grocery list. Fats, carbs, proteins, fruits, vegetables, etc., that you would consume, but only 40% of what you're eating now. The other 60% of the food came from 5 food groups that these fulfillment companies that the researchers found. They didn't go and research it. They found people who did, who found these food groups with tremendous amounts of nutrition. So what they were literally able to do was to give people less quantity of food, but actually instead of reducing the amount of nutrition, they actually increased the amount of nutrition. Let me give you a couple examples of, again, the D in TDOS is nutritional deficiency. I'll give you one quick example. Cornell University did a study on spinach, on iron levels from 1953 to today. They say those have decreased, you ready for this, by 4,300%. So one bowl of spinach in 1953 would equal about 40 bowls of spinach today, just to give you a reference point, right? Another way to think about it was if we just use a gasoline analysis. So a gallon of gas could drive you, let's say, 20 miles. That's normal food, okay? But imagine if the same amount, 1 gallon of fuel, could take you 100 miles. That's the concept that they concentrated on. Well, what were the things that were the most efficient in our food? Even if you do organic. One of the most important things we're not getting enough of are what are called trace ionic minerals. Now you got 2 kinds of minerals. You have chelated minerals, not at all the same thing. And then you have trace ionic minerals. And we need, we're not talking about iron, calcium, magnesium, not that those aren't important, but we're talking about things like gold and silver and zinc and beryllium and boron and molybdenum, for example. 70. In the best organic food that you would buy, even in the grocery list they're going to give you, you're getting 15 to 20 minerals out of 70. The researchers found a source that had all 70 trace ionic minerals. So is it hard to believe if your body needs 70 of these minerals and you're getting 20, that your body, again, you're getting 20 miles, it's ironic. Yeah, you're getting 20 miles to the gallon versus getting, well, in this case, 70 or 100 miles to the gallon. I mean, I think you get the concept, right? That was the first thing. The second thing that they had to overcome was the other thing we're the most deficient in, because we all suffer from a disease starting at age 25 called sarcopenia. What the heck is sarcopenia? Sarcopenia is a loss of about 1% of your lean muscle every year starting at age 25. If you don't believe me, go into a nursing home, look at people in their 80s, the skin is literally hanging off their bones. And what does that cause? That's caused loss of muscle mass. The loss of muscle mass does what? It creates instability, and the fear of an older person is falling down and breaking their hip. It can be fatal, right? But now new research has also said that loss of muscle mass may be a contributing factor to dementia. It's because lean muscle is really important, and also for our immune system functionality. Well, the key to preventing sarcopenia is one of 20 amino acids. You probably have all heard the term amino acids. Maybe you know or don't understand what they do. They're called the building blocks of life. To give you an idea, we have 22,000 genes in our body, and our body makes, notice I didn't say takes, makes 22,000 different human proteins. How does it make it? Not with fats, not with carbohydrates, and not with the protein itself. Sort of an oxymoron. because the only way you can get the 20 amino acids is inside of a protein. But if you think of protein like a walnut shell, that's a better way to think about it. So just like a walnut shell, you have to break it open and get the nut out. Well, the same thing the body does. It breaks open the protein. It's called body protein synthesis, a fancy name for extracting the 20 amino acids outside of a protein. Well, you've all heard they'll tell you, hey, in just 120 grams of protein a day, and you think you're getting 120 grams of protein, nothing could be farther from the truth. In a new analysis in Europe called net nitrogen utilization, a fancy term, when we ingest protein, we get all 20 amino acids, whether it's from a plant protein or an animal protein. But here's the key. It's not that you're getting all 20, it's the quantity. Back to this 20 mile, because in normal food, you're going to get maybe 20 miles to the gallon. Why? Because in vegetable proteins, for example, the absorption of those 20 amino acids is only 10%. When you go to a meat protein, steak, chicken, liver, fish, it's 30%, right? Well, the researchers found a source where the absorption of the 20 amino acids analyzed in net nitrogen utilization was 91%. That's why the men and women with no exercise gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, despite losing as much weight in a month as a year on any diet. And here's why. The body, we must have one of what are called the 9 out of the 20, 9 amino acids are essential, meaning you have to get them from your diet. One of those is responsible for making muscle in the body. It's called leucine. So imagine the people in the study were getting a 91% absorption of amino acids. So what they were able to do is, and there are 2 different days that people did. 5 days a week they did something. That's why I'm telling you about the protein. What's called protein pacing, where they had protein over the course of 12 or 14 hours. Aha! But back to the gas analogy. Before, when they had done this protein pacing, they used domestic steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc. And guess what? The people lost weight, but they lost lean muscle mass. Well, in this case, by giving them about a third as much by volume of protein, they ended up having the same amount or more of amino acids. So they were getting 100 miles to the gallon. And what was the evidence? People gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. I know it sounds good to be true, but that's why if you go to the website, it's free. You can see that it's right there. The numbers are right there. There's also the studies showing you these traditional diets, which I haven't even finished sharing that with you yet, but I will in just a moment. So 40% of the food came from the grocery store, 60% from these 5 foods from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, where they found food that had tremendous amounts of nutrition, like the food in this country had about 120 years ago. It's just a fact. I mean, that's what's going on. You don't have to believe me. Go on any diet you want, lower calories, do whatever you want to do, but it doesn't work. This works. And 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies prove it. It's irrefutable evidence. I know you're skeptical. That's fine. Be skeptical. But can you afford to be skeptical to the point that this might be something that could change the rest of your life? And here's the thing. Don't even do it to lose weight. We have people that want to gain weight. We all need to be assisting our own body in detoxing, in pulling these chemicals out of our body. No diet has ever been shown to remove a gram of a toxin from our body until now. That's why this is so exciting. This is irrefutable medical evidence. But lest you think diets work, let's go to another big study done in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This was a 12-month study. And what they did, they looked at, listen to this, it was called a meta-analysis. It's a fancy name for they looked at, they studied studies, 48 different studies on diets, 7,286 people, okay? And they named, in the 48 studies, it covered almost all the major diets, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, Cornish diet, zone-type diet, lose weight for your blood type, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, etc. And what did they find? When they analyzed all the diets in 12 months, the amount of weight loss from the most amount of weight loss to the least amount of weight loss was about 10 ounces. They went on to say in 6 months, the average weight loss was about 16 pounds, and up to 40% of what people lost was lean muscle mass. I mean, that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we wrote this definitive book back in 2010, and I don't want you to buy my book. Do not buy my book. We created the free website. Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, because we keep updating it. It's the newest information. For example, one of the 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies just got published about 8 weeks ago, but it was worth waiting for. It was published in Nature Communications, the #1 nutritional journal in the world. Didn't have anything to do with weight loss. Guess what it was about? It was about our gut microbiome, where a major portion of the immune system rests. They saw in 30 days massive increases in the functionality of that. It wasn't about the weight loss. That's why this program, don't do it to lose weight. That's like a given. We laugh. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to do what? Assist your own body in removing these chemicals. Did you all see the article? I think it was about 8 weeks ago now on Starbucks coffee. And I like Starbucks coffee, but in 1 cup, you're getting between 50 and 80,000 microplastics in every cup of coffee. In a plastic water bottle, you get between 100 and 200,000 microplastics. And they did a study out of Australia a year ago, and they said they estimate that we're consuming the equivalent of a credit card per week in plastic. Because everything you're looking at, any canned good, is lined with plastic. Paper straws are lined with plastic. Because again, in a coffee cup, for example, if you just had a paper coffee cup and put a hot coffee in there, obviously it would melt. I'm not faulting anyone for it. I'm just giving you the evidence. And yet, in one of the peer-reviewed studies, they proved that the thing that's so disruptive to your hormones is what's in the plastic called a phthalate. It's P-H-A, phthalate, P-H-A-L-A. I forget how to spell it. Doesn't matter. It's called a phthalate. Well, we have evidence that this also assisted the body in removing phthalates. No, you have to understand it's not a diet. Get diet out of your mind. Get calorie counting out of your mind. You want to try and compare it to what you know, but nobody's ever seen anything like this, right? Acids mentioned and became cured. I was talking about amino acids. Mary. So Mary, did you understand that about the amino acids and about the absorption, the net nitrogen utilization, and how critically important that is? Please respond so I know, because I want to try and address any and all of your concerns. What website is more info for me? Okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to put it in there for you right now. Control V. You'll see right there, hopefully in a moment. Give me 1 second and I'll put it up there for you. Jack also, hold on. Control V. Okay, can we get the list of okay, hold on just a second. Let me post the website first. Okay, there you go. The new health conversation, etc. Can we get a list of high nutrition foods on the website? First of all, let me explain something to you. It's not just the ingredients. That's what you don't understand. That's what the researchers did. It also was about how much at what time, very specific. It's extremely complicated, okay? And we're not trying to be evasive. If we just gave you the ingredients, it'd be like you baking a cake. Here are the ingredients. Here's the eggs and the flour and the butter. But without a recipe, nothing occurs. And again, that's why you'd want to do a free consultation with one of our coaches. We're not there to try and convince you or sell you. Plus, those 5 foods that come with a 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. You have nothing to risk. There's no risk, okay? And I know that everyone, and I want to support you in your skepticism, it's fine. But we're the only ones with peer-reviewed human trial studies, period. But it's not just, you got to understand, it's not just what the researchers figured out to consume. It was how they consumed it, like intermittent nutritional fasting. Not an oxymoron, not fasting, not time-restricted eating, not intermittent fasting, nothing to do with that. And that's why we offer free coaching. We also give you a document, a live coaching tutorial. So it's not a matter of just, hey, go down and get, Brussels sprouts. No, it doesn't work like, you see, again, everyone's used to like a diet, like simple, okay, here's the diet. It's not a diet, okay? And what we're showing you and teaching you is exactly what they did in these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. Only those people come in every week for blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. But what they did, the execution, was not just what they were consuming, but how, when, and why they were consuming in very specific sequences. See, one of the things that's unusual in this, we don't just have you weigh yourself. We have you measure yourself from your neck to your ankles. Why? Because we're storing the chemicals throughout our body in our visceral fat. And in the studies with no exercise, they shrank visceral fat by 33% in 8 weeks. But again, you're not going to go to the grocery store and find a food with 70 trace ionic minerals. You're not going to go and find a protein in the store with a 91% absorption of amino acids. But it's not just the particular protein, it's how it was prepared. That's why I know you think I'm being evasive. I'm not. I don't need to be evasive. This is real research. And we've taken a lot of time. Otherwise, I'd be trying to sell you my books. I'm not selling books. I mean, if you want to buy one, it's great, but it's not on that website. You can Google me and you can find out if you want to know more. But the idea, we gave you the website for free with all the medical proof, the most up-to-date medical proof. And then you can, if you want, we're not holding back the information, so you don't have to sign up for a free personal consultation to see the medical proof. And then we're there really to guide you. You get a free coach. That's why it's not just some simple recipe. It's not, this is diet and exercise and, have your breakfast. No. Nothing to do with that, okay? Now let's just see. So everybody see there the new health conversation, schedule a free consultation, what's the website? And again, Jack O'Tron, you can see it. Again, it's the website. I just want you to be able to see that. And for my other people over here, there we go. I realized that I hadn't shared it with everybody. So does anybody else have any other questions for me, okay? Do they want me to review one more time what they did, why it worked? Let me just summarize. So men and women, after 38 years of, researchers, after 38 years of research, they feel they found the silver bullet for weight loss, and they have the medical proof to back it up, which you can see on that website for free, okay? So essentially, what this is a way to assist our own body in removing chemicals from our fat cells. The side benefit is many of the metabolic functions, because the researchers weren't just nutritional researchers. They were also physiologists. So they could track not just what people were consuming, but what was happening inside the body. That's why they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, and proved that this was producing results that no one had ever seen on any diet ever in the world. See, the main reason to do this would not be to lose weight. Sounds crazy. We will with Olympic athletes, with CrossFit people, with marathoners, with triathletes, etc. We have kids as young as 2 doing parts of it, and people in their 90s. We have a gentleman that had a heart transplant, and we're not treating, curing, diagnosing, or make any medical proclamations at all. We don't need to do that. We let the medical proof stand on its own. And for those of you that don't understand, let me just spend a minute explaining a peer-reviewed human trial study. There's nothing higher in medicine. Here's how it works. When you're the researchers, like in this case, who submitted their research, their study to these big medical journals, like one of them, let's say, is the Obesity Journal, which it was, okay? Probably the #1 weight loss journal in the entire world. They decide if the work is worthy to be published. The Obesity Journal doesn't analyze your data or your study. They send it out to other world-class experts, to medical doctors and scientists and researchers who have one job, and that's to discredit what you're proving. Now, the reason you won't, I don't see any other supplement companies or any diet companies on their own, paleo, keto, Mediterranean, that have peer-reviewed human, they'll say, oh, we have a scientific paper, we have a scientific study. It doesn't mean a darn thing. Zero. It means nothing in the medical world, right? So what happens is if they run the experiment, your experiment, and it doesn't match up to what you claim, they'll publish those poor results. That's why no drug ever gets approved, thank goodness, without a peer-reviewed human trial study. And many of them get rejected. Many of them never make it through peer-reviewed human trial studies. So this is an enormous deal and a game changer. There is no other supplement, diet, nutrition ever subjected. Well, plus this is completely different. This was from scratch, a completely different approach. But all those other, whether it was paleo, keto, they didn't ever commission peer-reviewed human trial studies. That was done by the medical journals on their own. So it took a lot of courage for these researchers to submit something that had never been tried before. They didn't know what was going to happen because if it turned out that the researcher, the peer reviewers, these top people had found it didn't work, they would have published that. But when you get published in 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, that's enough for me. I'm done. And one of the studies, like I said, was just published about 8 weeks ago in Nature Communications. It's the #1 journal in the world. It's so exclusive that out of 100 studies submitted to them, they look at 7 and they publish 1. I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw. I'm never going to say that. That's why they call me, you'll see there, the researcher of the researchers. Wow, Trishy, down 22 pounds since June, correct. I bet you gained lean muscle mass. So look at that, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, Trishy. She didn't get paid to come on. I have no idea who's coming on my podcast. We're here to give you a chance to see a completely different alternative. 100% of the other people are telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. And then I, being the researcher I am, I just go, okay, well, let's look at the data. 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic. But this is study predicts obesity apocalypse. Dr. Yofa Wang of Johns Hopkins Bloomfield School of Public Health in Baltimore says that if the current overweight and obesity trends continue, 86% of Americans will be overweight or obese by 2030. Well, it's 80% today. In 2018, the obese percentage was only 42%. So in those 6 years, it's grown by almost 24%. They went on to say, this is nuts. But again, I don't give you opinions. If those trends continue, the recent studies show that clearly how the future situation might become even worse. They're saying that by, even more troubling, the authors note, by 2048, 24 years, all American adults would become overweight or obese, 100% of us. I had someone challenge me on that the other day. Well, I just go back to the research. I don't give you opinions. Why would you believe Peter Greenlaw's opinion? I'm the researcher of the researchers. But we're bringing you the research. We're not forcing you to buy my books to find out the answer. I see a lot of people, and I guess they're well-intended, on social media, they want to charge you for their diet to show you how to lose weight. The only problem with that, they have no medical evidence that even if you buy their diet, there's no proof it works. And let's be clear, you can lose weight on any diet out there. That's not up for debate. I'm not arguing that point, because the researchers who did these 7 peer-reviewed studies, they'd done 150 studies over 38 years of every diet out there. And what did they find? People lost weight on every diet. But up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle. And people end up gaining all the weight back and more because they slowed down their metabolism. Look, at least now you have a choice. You don't have to go to our website. And I promise you, if you go to our website, we won't contact you. Don't think we're going to contact you if you go there. The only way we'll contact you is if at the bottom, scroll down, it says schedule a free personal consultation. You can see it. You can see it right there. I'm going to post it one more time for you. So you can go to the New Health Conversation, no spaces, see the medical proof, and if you like what you see, then and only then schedule a free consultation. So does anyone else have any more, maybe muscle strength? So your muscle strength, Trishy, your muscles, is when you say maybe muscle strength, you're saying that you feel stronger? But again, Trishy, we know based on the peer-reviewed human trial studies that you are gaining lean muscle, okay? It's not up for debate. And I'm not sure, are you exercising or not? I just would be curious because, again, the people in the studies weren't allowed to exercise, and yet they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, okay? Mary, yes, I ran out of typing space and had to message someone in 2 separate messages. I'm not sure if that related to me or not. I can scroll up and see if there's anything else that I missed. Can we get to, okay, hold on. What website? I covered that. Acids. Oh, what website? Harvard. The Harvard study is, it's actually the New England Journal of Medicine is the study that's published along with Journal of American Medical Association on our thing. As far as that Harvard, it was, you can go there, Harvard Medical School, click in Stop Counting Calories. It was written by Dr. Fatima Stanford. She was the obesity expert at Harvard that did it. So Jacatron, if you want to go there and see it, you can. No, they're not, Elizabeth, they're not supplements. No, it's totally different than supplements. No, see, Mary, it's not about upping the protein intake. Again, I hope I did a good job of explaining. Here's the problem. What you're saying is you're needing more gas than a gallon to go 100 miles. What they proved in the studies was that they could give you a gallon and you could go 100 miles. So upping the amount of protein has nothing to do with it, because the conversion of the amino acids inside the protein, especially if it's steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., is only 30%. So yes, you could increase, but see, again, you're increasing the amount of fuel to run the body. That's a really inefficient way to do it. So the least amount of fuel, the more lean the body can be in terms of using quantities. Because remember, the body has to digest it. It has to break it down. And then the waste products, just like the engine in a car. If you could get 100 miles to the gallon in your car, you'd have way less carbon, way less exhaust, way more impact on the environment, because you're being way more efficient. That's what these researchers did. That's what they figured out. That's what they proved, that they could get 100 miles to the gallon, because they did decrease the quantity of the food people had been, they basically lowered the amount of food to what people did doing traditional diets. That was the only way it could work, right? Because then you say, oh, well, the people on this, do you know that actually the people in these studies consume more food than the people on the diets? And yet they lost weight 12 times faster? Because the one thing you have to know about nutrition is that the nutrition, the more nutrition that you, the higher the absorption of the nutrition, the less hungry you'll be, and the more efficiently your body processes that source. So again, back to 100 miles to the gallon instead of 20. So let's see. Okay, hold on. Let me just scroll down here. Okay, maybe. Okay, does anybody else have any final comments before? Wow, we've been an hour and a half already on this podcast, and I'll probably do another one in a couple hours. I try to do anywhere from 2 to 3 a day, okay? So does anybody have any last questions for me before I end the podcast? Well, again, like I said, I would encourage all of you, if you want, you can go to that website for free and sign up for a free consultation, or not, but you can at least go there and see all the medical proof, okay? So I want to bid all of you a great rest of your day, wherever you are, if you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or somewhere around the world watching this podcast. And if you like what you've seen, you can go to my TikTok. It's the New Health Conversation, and like it. And like I said, as long as my voice holds, I'm going to do as many of these, at least 2 or 3 a day, because people are so desperate, I think, for this knowledge. And again, we're only giving you medical proof. Nothing I've shared with you today is my opinion. Nothing I've shared with you is what we didn't laboriously work on for 21 years of research to write these 4 books: Why Diets Are Failing Us, The TDOS Syndrome, TDOS Solutions, and our most, probably a last book, maybe our most famous, Your Third Brain. So all written with medical doctors, all got high acclaims, etc. So I wish you nothing but great health and vitality, and potentially you really could change the rest of your life. And remember, the longest journey starts with the first step. So if you go to the website and you like what you see, that could be your first step, all right? But we're not there to convince you. We're not there to sell you. So if you sign up for a free consultation, I promise you, we are not going to convince you. We're not going to sell you. We're going to share with you, based on what you want to accomplish, what's possible. And then you get to decide. So you get a free coach, free, no kidding. It's the person who interviewed you. And 40% of the food you're going to buy from the grocery store, I don't think the grocery store is going to give you a refund. But the other 5 foods you'd be purchasing, which represent 60% of the food you're going to consume, they do offer 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. No questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping. So I hope you'll take your time to go to the New Health Conversation, see what you think, and we'd love to be able to educate you, okay? So everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful day.